The CIA more or less intimates that, well, they're out of the covert action business anymore. But I read recently where they're down in Chiapas helping the government fight the rebels there.
There's not a doubt in my mind that they're in Chiapas. They've been there since day one, I'm sure. And Mexico is just too important to the United States to leave it to the Mexicans. You know what I mean? And I was in Mexico with the CIA in the 60s. And they had a vast operation going there, and especially in their penetrations and work with the Mexican security services. And in fact, it started with the president in Mexico, our operations. A very close relationship with 3 successive presidents, Lopez Mateos, Diaz Ordaz. When it comes to Mexico and this Zapatista movement, what they have to worry about, I think, is not just the armed movement in Chiapas of these armed force of the EZLN, but as an inspiration, they triggered the development of a huge support network, popular movement all over the country, which has come together to support their demands. And the demands are really not outrageous at all.
No, they're not.
They're not outrageous. And the Zapatistas themselves, I could not believe this, that they say, we do not want power. I mean, that's the first guerrilla organization, I think, that has ever said that. The idea always was to take power and then impose or establish or reorganize, do whatever you want to do. But they say, no, we just want to have democracy in this country. And we want to get the PRI out. And the PRI is, of course, so unpopular now. It's carrying on through its patronage system, you know, that's been in power for a long time. So in Mexico, I think they have a much bigger problem than just the armed movement in Chiapas. But it has spread all over the country, and nobody can tell where this is going to lead. The Zapatistas, you know, had this referendum back in August and September. And they had it not only in Mexico. This was a referendum on a number of questions, on the direction in which the people would like to see the country move and how they would like to see the Zapatistas themselves develop. Whether they should convert themselves into an independent political movement. And they had international people. I voted in the thing, too, because I'm sitting over there in Germany reading every day through my computer the latest happenings in Chiapas and all over Mexico. And so I'm naturally very interested. I voted on all these questions. There were a whole series of questions. And people, I think they had 80 or 100,000 people outside Mexico who took part in this referendum. And there were several million in Mexico who
what did they do, send out questionnaires to people all around the country?
Well, in my case, all the questions came on through the computer, through the net. And I sent my vote back through the net. And in Mexico, they organized tables all over the country. Oh. And people went and voted on their preferences according to this list of questions. So you can be very sure that the CIA is in there in a very big way. I imagine they're in there with special forces of the United States Army, right in Chiapas. They're doing communications monitoring, I'm sure, of all the transmissions of the Zapatistas, and monitoring the people who come and go. You know, the Mexican Army has tried to put a ring around the area controlled by the EZLN, and it's a very fascinating scene to watch. But when you talk about, going back to your comment about covert action in the 1990s, there are some very interesting things that have come out. For example, even though the Cold War is over, that does not mean that the United States is going to settle for democracy in any particular country. They never have. And the litany is quite long, you know, starting from the 50s, of democratic processes. What is accepted here as legitimate electoral process and pluralistic political parties and so forth. When that goes against U.S. interests, they don't care. I mean, it's not a matter of principle for them. The principle is what's good for us.
You know, what's that famous remark that Kissinger made about the situation in Chile? That,
oh, we shouldn't stand by because of the irresponsibility of the Chilean people. And at the same time, then Nixon was telling the CIA to make the Chilean economy scream.
Yeah.
But what has happened now in the 1990s is that in 1990, Bulgaria. The Bulgarian Communist Party, the former communists, they renamed themselves as the Bulgarian Socialist Party. And they won the 1990 elections in the sense that they took 211 of the 400 seats in the parliament. Do you think that the United States accepted that? All these international observers were there from Western Europe and other places, and they all said this was absolutely free and fair. There was no fraud at all that we could detect. But the United States didn't accept that. And so nowadays, instead of having just the CIA going around behind the scenes and trying to manipulate the process secretly by inserting money here and instructions there and so forth, they have now a sidekick, which is this National Endowment for Democracy, NED.
Yeah.
And this organization dates from 1967. A lot of people don't realize, because it was just established in, I think, 83 or so, but the idea emerged from a series of scandalous revelations in 1967, the worst ones to that point, to hit the CIA. And I was in headquarters at the time that these scandals broke, and the gloom there was something you could touch almost. Because what happened was the long-running CIA's control and manipulation of the international program of the National Students Association in this country, which was the national organization of university students, came out. It was revealed.